What if a simple trip turned into a disappearance that still haunts a nation? In August 2010, Amber Tuccaro, a 20-year-old mother from Fort McMurray, Alberta, traveled with her baby boy to the city of Edmonton. She planned to spend time with friends before continuing her trip. On August 18th, Amber left with her baby and a friend, but later accepted a ride from a stranger. That decision would be her last known moment of safety. Hours later, Amber was gone, leaving her child behind. Her disappearance became one of Canada's most tragic and disturbing unsolved cases. What if the only clue was a chilling phone recording? After Amber vanished, police revealed that she had made a phone call while in the stranger's car. On the recording, the unknown man's voice can be heard asking her where she was going, while Amber responds with uncertainty. Investigators released part of this audio to the public in 2012, hoping someone would recognize the man. The voice remains one of the most haunting clues in Canadian true crime. For Amber's family, that recording is both painful and vital, her last known words before she was silenced. How could a case so urgent be mishandled so badly? From the beginning, police were criticized for their response. Officers initially suggested Amber had simply gone missing by choice, rather than treating her case as a likely abduction. Vital hours and days were lost before serious searches began. Witness statements were overlooked, and Amber's family accused authorities of not taking her disappearance seriously because she was an Indigenous woman. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, later admitted to mistakes, fueling outrage across Canada. Amber's case became a painful symbol of systemic failures in missing persons investigations. In 2012, 2 years after she vanished, hikers discovered Amber Tuccaro's remains in a field near Leduc County, Alberta. The news devastated her family, confirming what they had long feared. The location, not far from where she was last seen, raised even more questions. Despite releasing the audio recording and receiving numerous tips, investigators failed to identify the killer. Forensic evidence made little progress. The discovery of Amber's body ended the search, but not the fight for justice. Her murder remains officially unsolved. Why does Amber's story still echo across Canada? The disappearance and murder of Amber Tuccaro became part of the wider crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women, MMIW, in Canada. Her family continues to fight for answers, demanding accountability from both investigators and the justice system. The haunting recorded voice of the unknown man remains one of the most chilling unsolved clues in Canadian history. Every year, vigils are held to remember Amber and other Indigenous women whose cases remain unsolved. Until the man behind the voice is found, Amber Tuccaro's story will remain a heartbreaking mystery. In December 2010, Phylicia Barnes, a 16-year-old honor student from Monroe, North Carolina, traveled to Baltimore, Maryland to visit her half-sister during the holiday break. Known as a hardworking student with dreams of becoming a teacher, Phylicia's visit was meant to be filled with family and fun. But just days before New Year's Eve, she mysteriously vanished. No signs of struggle, no clues left behind. She simply disappeared. Her sudden vanishing shocked Baltimore, a city already struggling with violent crime. A teenager full of dreams had gone missing without a trace. On December 28, 2010, Phylicia was last seen at her sister's apartment. Friends said she left with plans to grab food but never returned. When she didn't answer calls, her family grew alarmed. Police launched a search, canvassing neighborhoods, rivers, and abandoned buildings. Media outlets compared her case to Natalie Holloway, calling her Baltimore's Natalie. Flyers were plastered across the city, but no solid leads emerged. For her family, each day without answers felt like a nightmare. The disappearance of Phylicia Barnes was turning into a national mystery. In April 2011, nearly 4 months after she went missing, Phylicia's body was discovered in the Susquehanna River near Harford County, Maryland. Her body had been weighted down, suggesting foul play. The grim discovery devastated her family and confirmed what many feared. She had been murdered. Investigators now shifted their focus from a missing person case to a homicide investigation. But even with the body recovered, questions about how she died and who was responsible remained unanswered. The community that once held out hope was left in mourning. Who could have killed an innocent teenager? Suspicion soon fell on Michael Johnson, Phylicia's sister's ex-boyfriend. Prosecutors argued he strangled her during a fight, then disposed of her body in the river. The case was built on circumstantial evidence, text messages, and testimonies from witnesses who claimed Johnson confessed. In 2013, he was convicted of second-degree murder, and Phylicia's family briefly felt justice was served. But in 2016, an appeals court overturned his conviction, citing flaws in the evidence. Johnson was released, leaving the case in limbo once again. Justice for Phylicia slipped through the cracks of the legal system. How can justice vanish just like the victim once did? More than a decade later, the murder of Phylicia Barnes remains clouded in doubt. Her family continues to push for answers, demanding accountability from a system that failed them. True crime communities across the U.S. still discuss her case, calling it one of the most heartbreaking unsolved murders of the 2010s. Whether Michael Johnson was truly guilty or whether the real killer remains free is a question that lingers. Phylicia's story is remembered as a warning about vulnerability, trust, and the fight for justice that remains unfinished. What if the only clue to someone's life was a cartoon t-shirt? On September 10, 2012, police in West Virginia, USA, were called after a body was discovered floating in the Guyandotte River near Huntington. The victim was a young African-American girl, estimated to be between 11 and 15 years old. She wore a distinctive blue Smurfette t-shirt, which later gave her the name Smurfette Jane Doe. With no identification and no missing child reports that matched, investigators faced a heartbreaking mystery. Who was this young girl, and how did she end up in the river? Investigators quickly determined the girl had been the victim of homicide. Her body showed signs of trauma, and she had likely been in the river for several days. Despite national alerts, her description did not match any missing child reports. The Smurfette shirt became the central clue, something investigators hoped a family member or teacher might recognize. Yet weeks turned into months, and no one came forward to claim her. The idea that a young girl could be murdered and remain nameless horrified the community. Detectives began to suspect the girl may have come from outside West Virginia, perhaps trafficked or moved across state lines. They checked DNA databases, school records, and shelters, but no match was found. Forensic artists created a facial reconstruction, sharing it across the U.S. under the name Smurfette Jane Doe. Still, the case went cold. Without a name, solving the murder became nearly impossible. The girl's very identity had been stolen, making her one of America's most haunting cases of an unidentified victim. Some theories suggest she may have been a runaway, others that she was a victim of child trafficking. The lack of a missing child report points to a troubled home life or possible neglect. The river may have been chosen to wash away evidence, leaving investigators with few leads. Her age and clothing struck a deep emotional chord, especially among parents who saw the tragedy as a failure of both family and society. Every theory led to more sadness than answers. The Smurfette Jane Doe case stood as a painful reminder of voiceless victims. Even today, the case of Smurfette Jane Doe remains unsolved. She is buried in West Virginia under a stone that simply reads, Jane Doe. Investigators continue to hope that advances in DNA testing and genealogy might one day reveal her true identity. Until then, her memory lives on as one of the most heartbreaking unsolved child murders in the United States. The little girl in the Smurfette shirt still waits for someone to speak her name, and for justice that has never been served.